Power. Class is in session. Power 106.
If e'er I tread the highways of the world, 'twill be for thee, my country. For thy name I am most zealous. Unto thee I owe all the imaginings of beauty sown deep in my soul, and unto thee I bring what thou hast given. While on thy breast I lay in helpless childhood, I have felt thy breath, moist with the mountain dew, and seen thy face, aflush with Eden's earliest dawn, have heard thy whispers midst vast silences, when noon held breathless earth and sea. And thou hast nursed me from season unto season, year to year, till dawning consciousness in me revealed the graces of thy form. Well, I remember the vague and subtle sense of joy which stole into my pulses as I gazed upon thy fields of flowering grasses neath the wind, rising and falling like a reedy pond, half blown to life. And well do I recall thy first sweet favor, my first love, a flower, starlike and tender, whose perfumed breath wafted my soul into the enchanted land of dreams and fairies. Or thou wouldst lead me through labyrinthine ways, where murmuring flowed the shadowy waters of some lonely stream, dappled with golden glimmerings where the sun pierced with his prying eye the sanctuary hallowed by solitude. Alone with thee, and in such mood as each sequestered spot would lend, and with the gathered presences of years, whose summers lay beneath my feet. I heard thy wondrous story, saw thy tears, thy laughter. Midst thy tears I heard and saw, and with entranced vision did behold phantom romances that at noontide dream upon thy hills, and in thy valleys sleep. There is a world-old pain within thine eyes, even while they sparkle mirth, a shadowy trouble that sits on thy fair brow, a spectral languor that cleaves to thine immortal youth, and casts a damp upon thy warmest impulse. Oft in the still watches of the night I've learned thy stifled moan, and like the homeless wind, warring against opposing shutters, oft thy sighs have come to me. And I have sought uneasy with thy hidden pain, the woods on summer nights, to listen to the leaves whispering in solemn conclave, or to scan their black and golden tracery, images and symbols of thine own mysterious fate, dark with forebodings, golden with the lure and promise of thy matchless loveliness, and baffled, I have lifted searching eyes onto thy mist-veiled mountains, where the peace and majesty of heaven linger yet. They loom against the skyline, seem to yearn, pulsating towards high heaven, are silent still, tense with an anguished waiting. Vanquished beneath the burden of thy grief, I now sink, and now a deathless impulse bears me on, to dare for thee, to spend myself for thee, to take the rugged path, nor heed the pain, to grapple with the thorns of sacrifice, the sneers of cowards, the malice of the proud. If I might win thee to a nobler self, and see thee stand triumphant on the heights, steadfast like thine own mountain range, and flushed with the bright splendor of a newborn day. Oh, bless me now, my mother, bless me now, and be the music of thy thousand streams in me a song of triumph. The fleet winds that haunt thy shadowy passes be the wings that shall upbear my fancy. Let it glow like thine own ardent noonday, and resound with your powering harmony that swells from thine encircling seas. And that strange peace be mine, that broods above thy mist-filled veils, not silence, veils at twilight and upon thy purple hills, not silence, but a hushed expectancy, a brimming joy that greets night unafraid. When life stands tiptoe on the brink of time and waits with fluttering pulses for the last sweet benediction and the touch of hands, and hope aspires toward the evening star. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. It's the International Decade of Healthy Aging, the International Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, the International Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, the Decade of Action for Road Safety, and 2022 marks the start of the UN International Decade of Indigenous Languages. It's the 11th day of the first month of 2022, the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development, the International Year of Glass, and the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture. In the United States, January is being observed as Human Trafficking Awareness Month and a Mentorship Month. Meanwhile, here in Jamaica, the month of January is being observed as Soup Month and Earthquake Awareness Month. In fact, this is Earthquake Awareness Week here in Jamaica. It's Cosray Constitution Day in Micronesia, Independence Manifesto in Morocco, National Unity Day in Nepal, and Canadians are celebrating Sir John A. Macdonald's birthday in Canada. It's International Thank You Day. Hoy es martes el 11 de enero 2022 y les saludamos en cualquier parte del mundo que nos están escuchando en este momento. Estamos muy agradecidos por el don de la vida y el privilegio de servirles en otra edición de su programa Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia. Nunca vamos a tomar su audiencia por sentado porque sabemos que ustedes tienen otras opciones y esta es la razón por la cual jamás olvidamos darle las gracias por elegir Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia, de lunes a viernes desde las 2 hasta las 5 de la tarde, aquí en Power 106 FM. La misión continúa para educar, capacitar, iluminar y estimular el espíritu empresarial. Bienvenidos.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now 2:15. Hello, Jamaica. I am Death. Thank you for the great job sending me so many souls. Pedestrians, please continue staring at your phones while on the road, walking on the left when there's no sidewalk, and wearing dark colors at night. You've exceeded my expectations and my quota. Ward off death. Obey the road code. A message from the Road Safety Unit.
The following is a public service announcement from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security is advising the public that limited services will be offered at the newly relocated office at 4 Sunsharp Square, Montego Bay, from Wednesday, September 1 through to Friday, September 3. The ministry appreciates your kind understanding and expects full service to be restored on Monday, September 6. The ministry apologizes for the inconvenience this may cause. That was a public service announcement from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
All over this land, I think loud danger, I think loud a warning, I think loud love, my brothers and my sisters, what a song to sing, I'll sing it in the morning.
C'est mardi le 11 janvier 2022 et nous vous saluons tous qui nous écoutez où que vous soyez dans le monde. Nous sommes reconnaissants du don de la vie ainsi que du privilège d'être à votre service par une nouvelle édition de votre programme Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre. Nous ne considérons pas votre fidélité comme l'un de ceux parce que nous savons que vous avez l'embarras du choix. C'est pourquoi nous n'oublions jamais de vous remercier de choisir d'écouter Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre, du lundi au vendredi de 13h à 5h de l'après-midi sur notre antenne Power 106 FM. Nous continuons notre mission d'éduquer, d'habiliter, d'éclairer et d'encourager l'esprit d'entreprise. Bienvenue. All we're saying is it's Tuesday, the 11th of January, 2022, and we greet you well, wherever in the world you are listening to us right now. We remain eternally grateful for the gift of life and the privilege to serve you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story. We don't ever take your listenership for granted because we know you have choices. And that's why we never ever forget to remember to say thanks for choosing to listen to both sides of the story, Monday to Friday, 2 to 5, right here on Power 106 FM. The mission continues to educate, empower, enlighten, and encourage entrepreneurship. Welcome. We started out this afternoon with the poem My Country by J.E. Clare McFarlane, taken from the book entitled A Treasury of Jamaican Poetry, selected and edited by J.E. Clare McFarlane, published by the University of London Press Limited, Warwick Square, London. And we matched My Country by J.E. Clare McFarlane with Nicky Thomas's If I Had a Hammer. If I Had a Hammer. At least his interpretation of If I Had a Hammer. And we want to welcome those of you listening to us on 106.1, 106.3, 106.5, 106.7, and 106.9. From Moran Point to Negril Point, from the Goat Islands to Galena Point. This is Power 106 FM, serving Jamaica and the diaspora. Hello to those tuned in via the Power 106 FM app, which you can download from the App Store or the Google Play Store, depending on the nature of your device. Downloading is free, listening is free, whenever, wherever. We acknowledge those who have dialed a designated number to listen to Power 106 FM from the United States or the United Kingdom. Those in the US who wish to dial a number to listen to both sides of the story in particular and Power 106 FM in general can call 631-359-8281. 631-359-8281. And if you're in the United Kingdom and you wish to dial a number to listen to Power 106 FM, your number is 0330-606-0953, 0330-606-0953. We're streaming live video on the Dervan Malcolm Facebook page and affiliated pages. If you're not there yet, log on to Facebook. In the search box atop the page, type DERVAN MALCOLM, and you too will be able to not just hear, but see what's happening in the studios of Power 106 FM. What's on your mind this afternoon? The lines are open, 876-922-4112-5, 876-922-4112-5. The text line is the same as the WhatsApp number, which means you can not only send us your WhatsApp messages, your voice notes, but you can also call us via WhatsApp. And of course, you can send us your text messages. That number is 876-365-3346. 876-365-3346. And we're all over social media: Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Instagram, LinkedIn, BBM, Yahoo Messenger, Tango, WhatsApp, Snapchat, TikTok, all over the place. And we look forward to your full participation. After all, it is your program, Both Sides of the Story, here on Power 106 FM. Not sure if it's necessarily the topic of the day, because there are some people who are going, quack, 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 in terms of the cabinet reshuffle. Not sure how many people have made that their topic of the day, but if it is yours, then feel free to share with us. The numbers to call, 876-922-4112-5. If you have a thought, if you have a view, if you have a perspective, if you have a critique of the announced minor changes to the cabinet, feel free to share your thoughts with us. In the meantime, let's welcome those who are already on board and get the show on the road. Norman Hines in St. Thomas, good afternoon. Calvin Roberts in North York, Ontario, Canada, welcome. Ricardo in Glengoff, St. Catherine, always on board. Audrey Smith says, good afternoon, Dervan and listeners. Tuning in from Southampton. Nice to see you're back in the studio now. Take care, everyone. And you do likewise, Audrey Smith. Faye Weller, good afternoon. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining us. Hello to Derek Blair. He says, greetings. Whose poem was that? And he eventually got the information. So he says, thank you. You're welcome, Derek Blair. Thank you very much for your message. Once again, the numbers to call 876-922-4112-5. We had a bit of rain this afternoon in the corporate area, at least where we were earlier on. And one suspects that has something to do with the trough that has been across the island and is remember, when you hear the word trough, just think cloudiness, think thunder showers, think, well, some people would say think bad weather, but bad weather is subjective. So the trough is expected to remain across the island for the next few days. Afterwards, a frontal system is expected to move into the vicinity of Jamaica late this week. Widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms across central and western parishes for the rest of this afternoon. Tonight, partly cloudy. Elsewhere in the region, there's a cold front extending across the Bahamas and Florida through the Gulf of Mexico. So you've been brought up to speed with the weather. Now, as we said, the news of the day for some people is the adjustments that have been made to the cabinet. And obviously, people have varying opinions and positions on that. And there are those who are perhaps just saying whatever or moving right along. But we have to take an interest, because let's remember, this is our business. It's not the business of only 63 members of parliament and all the others who make up the political directorate. It's about all of us, and we must maintain a level of interest, a high level of interest with respect to the affairs of our country. And so we welcome your positions, your views in that regard. What's this now? This one says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. Day 11. Here, looking at the Observer, the USA is warning its citizens against traveling to Jamaica. The painful part about this story is the incompetence of the police, JDF force. How embarrassing is that? Please read more. You can elaborate later. This, my friend, is depressing. We need to apply for a temporary loan from the police force in the UK. A couple of matters you have raised there, blessed child. And we want to take them on one at a time. With respect to the warning from the American government, it's the done thing. It's what they do. And it's not unique to the US. Countries send out advisories in the best interest of their citizens, and the United States of America is no different. They are protecting their people, their citizens. That's what it boils down to. That's what it is about. Now, with respect to, there's another story you raised. Can you send the link? Because I didn't see that online this morning. Didn't see that one. If it's a story that's in the Observer. So, blessed child 1225. Please send us the link and let's see what you're talking about there. In the meantime, though, so that's one of the that's the story of the U.S. government making it clear to its citizens that they need to be careful if they plan to visit Jamaica. And so it is. The other story, as we said, has to do with the cabinet adjustments to the cabinet. Um a couple of moves. One of them having to do with the appointment of a new attorney general and the creation of a ministry of legal and constitutional affairs to be led by Marlene Malahoo Fort, Homer Davis to oversee the western arm of the office of the prime minister, and Bobby Montague being taken into the office of the prime minister, so he no longer has his own ministry. One moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now 2:30. The Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority, JACRA, is now being onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, J-SWIFT. Effective January 10,
Hello.
2022, J-SWIFT will be facilitating online applications for all JACRA import permit releases.
I'm on the
Traders
radio
and their
now.
agents will now be able to make online payments for JACRA cess. Benefits
When
will
I'm no
include
longer on the
faster
radio.
processing times and increased convenience, facilitating trade and doing
You could
business.
do that.
No more walk-ins or waiting in lines. The JACRA Import Permit Release Service, effective January 10, 2022, on J-Swift. Waiting on your receivables. Waiting to purchase raw material to fulfill your next order. Waiting to get paid for goods already sold. 60 days, 90 days. Invoices way past due. What if you could be insured for up to 85% of your domestic and foreign receivables? So that if you don't get paid on time, your biggest priority, your business, will not have to wait. Trade credit insurance. Insurance worth having. Credit without waiting. Exim Bank. By helping businesses, we save lives and livelihood.
In the evening, all over this land, I will sing out the danger. I sing out the warning, yeah.
So the news being reported by the Gleaner Online is that the prime minister has signaled that more changes will be coming to the executive in the future as the government strengthens how it manages the affairs of the country. And in terms of the details of the adjustments to the cabinet, in case you have an interest there, let's just share with you the changes if you missed it, but clearly not very significant. The of note, of course, is the fact that Floyd Green is back in the fold, so to speak, but as a minister without portfolio. Robert Morgan is a minister without portfolio as well. But there's a school of thought that says he the he perhaps should be appointed information minister instead of just being a minister without portfolio, although that is likely to be his preoccupation, information. As we said, Homer Davis has been assigned to the Office of the Prime Minister in Western Jamaica to oversee and coordinate special projects and major developments. Robert Montague, as we said, now in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and they have reincorporated the Housing, Urban Renewal, Environment, and Climate Change portfolio in all of that. And there are those who are saying, but how come Dr. Horace Chang is still in his position based on what's been happening with respect to crime and violence in Jamaica? And I think that was one of the stories carried in the Gleaner this morning as well. And he has essentially said, well, the policies and plans and so on for them to, and strategies, especially with respect to security, take time, and there is little or no, very little or no purpose in just chopping and changing. So the numbers are high in terms of crime. Change the minister, change the police commissioner, change the head of the army, etc. And you keep doing that, as opposed to being a little more precise in terms of what are the deliverables for the Services Commission in appointing people to those positions. For example, the position of police commissioner. What are the deliverables? Is there, as far as the contract is concerned? And then use that as the basis to measure the nature and extent of the work done or not done. But for what it's worth, Xavier Main has been moved from the Minister of Labor and Social Security to the position of Minister of State in the Ministry of National Security. A young man who some people regard as being promising, Matthew Samuda, has been shifted from national security and is now in the office of the Prime Minister. Senator Aubin Hill is now the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, and he has as his State Minister Dr. Norman Dunn. Delroy Chuck remains Minister of Justice. We've told you before that Marlene Malahoo Fort is the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and the thinking, we're told, by the Prime Minister, he spoke at the virtual swearing-in ceremony, which we were watching earlier today, that it's an indication of the work that is to be done with respect to constitutional reform and related matters, and also giving due regard to the various international treaties and related charters that have been signed on a global level, and the extent to which those need to have a ministry, because laws have to be, well, not to be confused with the Ministry of Justice. Ministry of Justice, we're told, is to deal with the administration of justice and putting in place policies and systems and processes that can cause the system to become more efficient. The health portfolio remains the same. Dr. Christopher Tufton and his Minister of State, Gillette Cuthbert Flynn. Desmond McKenzie keeps local government and rural development. Daryl Vaz, still the Minister of Science, Energy and Technology. Audley Shaw, now the Minister of Transport and Mining, his state minister being J.C. Hutchinson. Carl Zamuda remains the Minister of Labor and Social Security. Similar situation for Dr. Nigel Clark and Marcia Smith being his Minister of State. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, no changes there. Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, the minister, and Senator Leslie Campbell, the Minister of State. Did we forget anybody? Edmund Bartlett. Well, we didn't expect any change there. And for as long as he's a member of this government, and for as long as this government is in power, and if and when this government is voted out, he will still have responsibility for tourism. That's his baby, it seems, and he's been performing. Some would argue that, and he has been a performer in that area for some time, whether he's in opposition or in government. And Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports remains the same. Olivia Grange, the minister. Alanda Terrelong, state minister. Agriculture and Fisheries, now to Pernell Charles Jr., with Frank Witter, the Minister of State. And let's see. Right, so the ministers without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, otherwise known as the Office of the Prime Minister, essentially. The Prime Minister himself, Robert Montague, Clifford Warmington, Senator Matthew Samuda, and Favour Williams is now alone in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Right, I beg your pardon. So, I said just now, the Prime Minister, plus Robert Montague, Clifford Warmington, and Senator Matthew Samuda, they are in fact in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, but the Office of the Prime Minister is populated with a few ministers without portfolio: Robert Morgan, Floyd Green, and there's Homer Davis assigned to the Office of the Prime Minister in Western Jamaica, and of course the Prime Minister himself. And there are people joking. There's a joke doing the rounds that the top performing ministry is the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, by virtue of the number of ministers in that ministry. Right. So what do you think? What do you think? 876-922-4112-5, giving you an opportunity to express yourself on this subject. Here's a call coming through, a call on our WhatsApp line, same as the text line, 876-365-3346. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dervan.
Good afternoon.
How are you this afternoon?
I'm giving thanks for life. And you?
Very well, thank you. Good afternoon to your many listeners
Thank you.
here and abroad. Always a pleasure having the opportunity to speak with you and ostensibly to share with your listeners. Just become a business psychologist once through.
I wonder if you could help us. The reception is not 100%. Are you what kind of are you using a device that is on in speaker mode?
No, I am speaking to you directly on the phone. Can you hear me any better now?
I am getting more of your environment than you in terms of the phone picking up the ambience as opposed to your audio needs a little more body, a little more bass.
Okay, let me hang up and try to call you back.
That's not so bad right now. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Chef Baker, a business psychologist and leadership coach, once wrote, the reality is that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. But if you can be comfortable in your skin and confident of who you are and what you stand for, like-minded people will be more likely to gravitate towards you and with a calm confidence.
Oh, sorry to cut you midstream. We need to take a break. One moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:45.
Yeah, please continue.
Thank you very much, Dervan. And with a calm confidence, you will be a better judge of their character too. I would like to comment on the changes that have been made to the Homelessness Cabinet and simultaneously cover a few points. I must say that I welcome the revamping and restructuring of the cabinet somewhat by the Prime Minister. And I am specifically commending the newly appointed Attorney General, Mr. Derek McCoy. Based on what I know of him and based on his track record over the years, or over the decades rather, he is certainly qualified to hold such an important position as Chief Legal Advisor to the Cabinet, and I congratulate him. The elevation of Marlene Malaho Ford as Minister of Legal Affairs and Constitutional Issues is most welcome. I am quite happy that she now sits formally in the cabinet. There are many persons, Dervan, including yourself, who I am being audacious to state was not expecting the Honorable Dr. Harris trying to continue remaining as the National Security Minister. But I see where the Prime Minister has continued with Dr. Chan. I must say that I concur with the most Honorable Prime Minister in having Minister Chan remaining as National Security Minister, because a tremendous amount of accomplishments and achievements have occurred under Minister Chan's leadership in terms of some important reforms within the Jamaica Jamaica Constabulary Force and also some minor changes within the Army. The fact of the matter is that a number of police stations have been repaired, and never before in the history of any government have so many police stations been reformed and equipped as that which has occurred under the tenure of Minister Chang. And the fact of the matter is that Minister Chang is responsible for policy. He is not responsible for any direction of operations within the police force.
But ultimately, the buck stops with him, doesn't it? He's the accountable minister, isn't he?
Yes, it does. But changing the Minister of National Security would be a wrong move, I think, by the Prime Minister. And as far as I view the political and cabinet situation, he has full confidence in Minister Chang as National Security Minister, and that is very important. And it would seem to me as well that the three major partners, international partners who are supporting Jamaica, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, they are quite satisfied with the performance of Minister Chang, because if they were not, I am certain that Prime Minister Holness would have changed Minister Chang from that ministry.
I wouldn't be so certain, considering the political considerations of such a move. Clearly, when ministers make these changes, they have to take into account when prime ministers make these changes, they have to take into account not just the ideas, the thoughts, the criticisms, etc., of the general public, but they also have to give, well, they feel obligated to be mindful of possible political fallout by virtue of how they move around or otherwise reassign a particular minister, so as to minimize, as I said, to minimize fallout. So there's that political piece that is always there, and one, I could never envision Dr. Horace Chang, the Deputy Prime Minister, and a very close, let's just say a close colleague of the Prime Minister, that the Prime Minister would ever make such a decision.
There were many persons, Dervan, who were expecting that changes would have been made at that ministry. However, I think that with Minister Chang in place, he has not been removed. I think that what is now required. Last year was a very, very bad year for Jamaica in terms of crime and in terms of corruption. When you take a look at the issue of crime, over $100 billion is lost due to the crime problem, singularly excluding the corruption problem. I think that what is required in the new year, there are some persons who have been enunciating that if the government needs additional funding for the police force and the army, then they should not hesitate in accessing an overseas loan in order to carry out the continuing modernization and equipping of the police force and army. I think that in this new year, it is very imperative for the Prime Minister and his cabinet, including the hardworking Minister Chan, based on what I have heard and based on figures that I've heard, the security apparatus requires approximately $20 to $25 billion more in terms of assisting the entire security force framework.
Where did you hear that?
These are figures that I've heard by security experts on at least two programs, that it would require approximately $20 to $25 billion in additional funding to assist the police and the army. I am going further to state that the government should access approximately $25 billion, allocate $15 billion to the major organized and anti-corruption agency, MOCA, and to MOCA West, which is being led by Colonel Desmond Edwards and CTOC. Allocate $15 billion to MOCA West and CTOC, and have, in addition to that, get the corporation of the United States government and have assigned 3 senior FBI Drug Enforcement Agency and Alcohol, Tobacco and Farm special agents to MOCA and to MOCA West. And this will assist both MOCA West and CTOC to go after the high value and wealthy organized criminals in Jamaica. Those gang leaders, drug barons, lottery scammers, and the cybercrime criminals who are escalating in their criminal activities, to go after them who are currently earning Dervan hundreds of billions of dollars from their illegal activities. And the targeting operation should be carried out toward these persons. Last week, I had mentioned to you that there are some untouchable, highly organized persons within the private sector who are allegedly involved in criminal activities. And you posited the view that if that is correct, those persons should be reported to the security forces. My words, but essentially extrapolating from what you said, that was what you intended. That is what you said. Wednesday, December 22 Observer stated here, and it's very important for me to point out this to you and your listeners. It states that 2 Jamaicans who have years of experience working in United States intelligence and law enforcement agencies are alleged that they have information linking prominent local officials to corruption and fraud in Jamaica, but say nothing will come of it if their names are called. And the paragraph also stated the two Wilfred Rattigan, a former FBI special agent who served across the world from 1987 to 2017 in various capacities in the Bureau's Counterintelligence, Counter-Terrorism and Intelligence Division, and Herb Nelson, who spent 24 years in the U.S. Army Intelligence, stated that they have carried out investigations of corruption in Jamaica, and that the corruption, money laundering, and other issues point directly to certain individuals high up in Parliament. This was on the front page of the Observer, December the 22nd.
Yes, I saw that story.
Now, the fact of the matter is, Dervan, nothing will
go ahead.
When you have a situation where these persons in the United States with high level of training and information, when they make such allegations, it would seem to me that it is pointing out the widespread level of corruption in Jamaica, both with the private sector, the public sector, and as the alleged Dervan corruption of officials in Parliament.
Except that's not a breaking story, because we have all known this for a very long time.
But the fact of the matter is that these persons seem to be untouchable because they have not been investigated.
And we keep saying to you that we're not into taking that kind of position about people being untouchable. Those of us who have evidence, who have information pertinent to solving particular crimes or bringing to the attention of the security forces those who are engaged in nefarious activities. That's what that's the approach we have to take. It can't be that we just mouth some things, and it's something we do a lot in Jamaica because everybody knows something. So we just run up a mouth and we talk about, oh, you see all him, and you see she, and I want to tell you, say, you see them, and so on and so forth. But that's all we have, just information swirling around and people using it to big up themselves, to say how much they know. And there's no investigation because people just say, well, that's how the thing set. And everybody knows that him run the place and she in charge of that, and I just so. And with that kind of mentality, all we'll ever be doing is talking about these things as opposed to doing something once and for all.
But these persons are saying,
One moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Thank you. Those two former senior law enforcement agencies are saying, Dervan, that no action will be taken against these prominent persons in Jamaica, even if their names are provided.
Who is saying that?
These two former law enforcement agencies. They said, what we are afraid of is something like we're beating our heads against a brick wall, because if we present evidence that people are corrupt, then where is it going? Who will be charged? So they are quite aware of the massive corruption within the private sector.
What's the source of the original information pointing to these individuals engaging in acts of criminality?
They made this presentation during a virtual panel discussion on December the 5th to the...
All right. So then, thank you. So then, if they have that level of intelligence, how does it help Jamaica and Jamaicans to just fly a kite or just say some things or just drop some hints? How does that help the country as opposed to sharing the information? And those individuals you referenced, they are very well placed and they know who to go to share information with so that action can be taken. So if they have information, if they have such information, and all they can do is use it as a way to say, see what I know, this is what I know. Who does that help apart from their egos?
Well, I do not know if yes, I would have to concur with you. If they have conducted that investigation and have the requisite information, I think that the appropriate thing for them to do is to possibly to contact the head of MOCA here in Jamaica to provide him with the information, and I'm certain that it will be dealt with. But on the other hand, as well, Dervan, it is very important for the public to be aware, to be cognizant of the extensive corruption that is existing in Jamaica at all levels, from the political framework right to the private sector. I think that in terms of the police force now, the deployment of resources across the force needs to be looked at. And investigation is moving into the Jamaica Customs Agency. The Jamaica Constabulary Force currently has approximately 1,500 members. It would be good if the minister could see if he can fix the numbers to 1,000 officers. And I have taken note, Dervan, that Minister Chang
I'm sorry, we're getting some interruptions on the line.
Yes, I am saying that Minister Chang has announced that a modern and equipped forensic and ballistic testing lab will be established. And this year, I spoke to you last year on some occasions regarding the salary structure for the rank and file officers of the police force. I am hoping, Dervan, that in this new year, the Police Federation can sign a new agreement with the government, but also importantly and instructively, for the government to once and for all upgrade the salary structure for the police force. The elevation of local government stalwarts and former Mayor of Montego Bay, Homer Davis, as a cabinet minister in charge of the Western Office of the Prime Minister is commendable, and we here in St. James and Western Jamaica do applaud the Prime Minister for this appointment, and also we are certain that Minister Davis will work exceedingly hard with the reform of St. James. The Prime Minister has decided to keep Carlsamoda and Audley Shaw, which I think is also praiseworthy because their vast experience, expertise, and knowledge spanning decades as senior ministers makes them immense assets to the Holiness Cabinet. So I am happy that the Prime Minister did not extricate them from the cabinet.
For how much longer do you think he should keep them on?
I think that the Prime Minister should keep on Minister Samuda and Minister Shaw right up onto the next general election. They still have much to contribute. We have a narrative in this country relatively against age, that age excludes persons from serving at high levels, and that is quite flawed in its intrinsic thinking. I don't think that Xenia Main will be an asset to National Security Minister Chang. I was hoping that a state minister would have been appointed some time ago. And I do not have a problem, Dervan, with the numbers of ministers without portfolio based at the office of the Prime Minister. I think that each of them will have their respective duties and functions.
But what about those who argue that this cabinet is more like a break front? It is huge and well beyond the minimum that has been recommended. How do you respond to that?
It's a matter of opinion. I hear some persons speaking about the Rex Nedelford report, which recommended that 13 permanent cabinet positions be put into place. But I do not think that would work within our framework of government.
Why not?
No, because you would have to give the Prime Minister a certain amount of latitude in order in terms of shaping his administration, in terms of achieving his goals, if you limit the number of cabinet positions, that could hamper him in carrying out comprehensively the entire vision that he has in the many areas that the government would be responsible for. You see people...
But they could also argue that as it is, the prime minister has had latitude in 2 terms now. This is his second term of any significance. And we still are not where we need to be as a country. In other words, they look at it and say, but see, you've had big cabinets. What do we have to show for it?
I would respond to you by saying that much more would have been accomplished and much more would have been achieved if it was not for the pandemic which came to Jamaica. So that had thrown off the entire...
So just blame it on COVID.
No, that's a fact, Dervan. That has disturbed the entire economic framework of Jamaica. And that is why the economy has not increased much more than where it is presently. It is not blaming at all. We're speaking about the facts as they are. And when you take a look at the performance, Jamaica is very fortunate and should be extremely thankful to Minister Dr. Nigel Clark for his sterling performance as finance minister. So many other countries, Dervan, their economies have faltered tremendously. And when you take a look at Jamaica, when you take a dispassionate look on the economy at this time, he has held the economy in place. So I think he has performed exceptionally well. When you take a look
what about those who argue that it's an accounting exercise that the Minister of Finance has been engaged in, as opposed to policy driven, philosophically driven decisions that take cognizance of a COVID-19 pandemic, yes, but at the same time seeks to stimulate economic activity or to create opportunities that would be more useful in the long run to the economy, rather than just being in a holding position.
Yes, that area is very important, but I am confident that Minister Clark and his technocrats at the ministry, in terms of going forward this year and for the other years to come, I'm certain that they are focusing their energies and time on that aspect of things which are very, very important, because it is very important for the economic base of the country to be constantly improving, but at the same time, very important for the Jamaican people at the various levels to be improving as well.
And that's the point that some people make, that in order for more Jamaicans to benefit, the decisions have to be made in such a way that more people are served by the policies, served in a sustainable way by the policies of coming out of the finance ministry and by extension the government. In other words, the thinking is it's a lot more could be done. There could be more latitude in terms of the decisions and the choices made, and that the economy would benefit more from those.
Yes, but if you remember that before the pandemic came to Jamaica, some historic gains were made: the lowest unemployment rate, the lowest inflation rate, significant inflows of foreign foreign direct investment. But as I said,
Yeah,
before,
but as some analysts would point you to the decline. There was the beginning of a decline in was that 2019, mid to late 2019.
yes,
So it's not that we were we were growing, but under that policy, but that the economy started to decline because there was no stimuli, no no uh, no decision being made that would lead to the kind of job creation and business opportunities necessary to get some life into the economy and in a sustainable way.
yes, you have a point there because that is that is very important. When you take a look at the agricultural sector, the small and medium-sized businesses, the scope for expansion we're not seeing. So I agree with you that those areas need to be dealt with. When you take a look at Robert Montague, I am happy that the Prime Minister kept him in the cabinet. He's still a very important asset. I had expected
What makes him as such a very important asset? There are those who point to the
yes,
legion of scandals associated, scandals or controversies associated with the decision making in his ministry and the some of the agencies and departments that fall under his portfolio, which they argue uh, uh, are indicative of significant failure. Answer that after the break, please.
thank you.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:15.
The Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority, JACRA, is now being onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, J-SWIFT. Effective January 10, 2022, J-SWIFT will be facilitating online applications for all JACRA import permit
All of
releases.
this is open.
Traders and their agents will now be able to make online payments for JACRA cess. Benefits will include faster processing times and increased convenience, facilitating trade and doing business. No more walk-ins or waiting in lines. The JACRA Import Permit Release Service, effective January 10, 2022 on J-SWIFT.
Consumer Talks, educating and empowering consumers towards a more vigilant and confident consumer-friendly Jamaica. Join us every second and last Tuesday of each month at 9:35 on Real Business. Listen and learn about your rights and responsibilities. Learn how the CAC works to empower consumers in Jamaica. Consumer Talks, brought to you by the Consumer Affairs Commission, protecting your rights, securing our future.
See? 3:30. Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Para 106 FM. We're going to have to wrap in this segment, but just respond to those who take a different position with respect to Robert Montague. You seem to give him be giving him a lot of plaudits, but
Yes.
his record suggests otherwise.
Clearly, there were some issues within his ministry and the boards that fall under his portfolio. Clearly, he will have to accept collective responsibility for some of those issues, but he was not directly involved in those decisions that led to some amount of discrepancies coming out of them. But I think overall, when you look at the capability, at the experience of a Montague, it would have been very unfortunate and very backward in thinking if the Prime Minister had removed Mr. Montague, who is also chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party, from any cabinet position. And if you, I think you should have heard Dervan, where one of the senior persons, Mr. Edgerton Newman, from his organization had recommended to Prime Minister Holness that he should not at all remove Minister Montague from his position as Minister of Transport because he has tabulated, Mr. Newman that is, has tabulated 17 outstanding achievements that were had under the leadership of Minister Montague, and as far as he's concerned, that Minister Montague was, or is, at that time when he spoke, Minister Montague was still in charge, that Minister Montague had achieved so much that it would be very unreasonable for the Prime Minister to move him, and that over 8,000 licenses have been issued to taxi operators across the country, another accomplishment. So there are obviously missteps, but when you take a look at the broad picture of its performance at the ministry, I think there are many accomplishments there. I would have wanted to see a state minister of education. I am a bit disappointed that Prime Minister Holness did not see it prudent to appoint a state minister to assist Minister Favour Williams. As it relates to Auburn Hill, I think it's a warranted elevation. Dervan, he was minister without portfolio. He now has a ministry for himself. I expect him to perform at a very high level.
What about those who are not holding out too many hopes because they are still looking for 5 in 4, which was one of the commitments he was involved in and was supposed to deliver, that has never been delivered?
Well, we could come back again to seek to say because of the pandemic.
Because of the pandemic?
Yes, because of the pandemic, that things would have progressed quite far in terms of that.
But that would have been at least, you would have looked at about 3 years. That's what, 2016 to 2019. What happened in those years?
Yes, there were issues. There were issues hampering that goal. I concede that. When you take a look at Robert Morgan, I am commending Robert Morgan, the newly appointed Information Minister, Dervan. He is very eloquent, very informed, and he comes across very, very credible. And I think that it is very important for the government to have a full-serving information minister, and I expect him to perform at a very high level. Just in closing, I heard the Chief Justice, the Honorable Brian Sykes, once again recommended or stating from his viewpoint that jury trials should be abolished in Jamaica. I have the greatest of respect for the Chief Justice, and he is seeking to do a very commendable and first-class job. But the germane question here is, Dervan, as the current serving Chief Justice, is it proper for him to be recommending to the government regarding change of policy as it relates to jury trial? Is it within his remit to be calling for jury trials? Such a dangerous suggestion to be coming from the Honorable Chief Justice?
Yeah, well, the Chief Justice should know what is working and what is not working and what is viable and what is not within his jurisdiction, for want of another term. And it would be on that basis that he would make recommendations. So based on this, he couldn't just say jury trials full stop. What is the basis of that? And of course, uh, he has there are a lot of lawyers I've heard since the first time he broached the subject who are totally opposed to such a move. They argue that it's a deprivation of a particular right on the part of the on the for the individual, because an individual should be a beneficiary of being tried uh, by a jury of his peers from that standpoint, which is historical and important. So that requires. I'm not sure what the procedure is in making suggestions within the judiciary in Jamaica, and then carrying those forward, and what would need to happen, who would need to make the decisions. Is it parliament, an act of parliament, or otherwise? Is it a decision handed down by the chief justice? On what basis would they arrive to that at that point, if they agree that this is the way? And what about the dissenting voices? Will there be a platform to hear from those, or do we just again blame it on COVID and make a COVID-19 oriented decision, another one?
Yes, the public service staff orders and regulations, as far as I am informed, prevents a wide complement of civil servants or public servants from speaking publicly on government policy. But on the other hand, Dervan, it is my view that it is a very dangerous suggestion coming from the Honorable Chief Justice. And it is very important. The jury system has been in place for centuries. And it is very important for accused persons to be tried by his or her peers. What Chief Justice cites is recommending it for single judge trial for all cases. That could never be acceptable here in Jamaica. And I am hoping, Dervan, that the Jamaica Bar Association, the Advocates Association of Jamaica, will let their voices be heard, because that must never be allowed to take place. Because to abolish jury trials, seek to blame it on the pandemic, I think would be going into a backward precedent. Thank you so much, as usual, Dervan, for taking my call. All the very best to you and to your listeners. Keep up the excellent work on this program.
Thanks for the call. Take care.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Hello to Faye Weller, Cherry Henry, Mikey Jarrett in Brooklyn, New York, and Jose Marti Alumni Association, New York chapter. Good afternoon. A text message here. Good afternoon, Dervan. Dervan, this government needs to go. Andrew Holness simply cannot manage. He's now shedding tears. He's unable to manage. He just needs to go. Salah from Kingston. Your position is quite clear, Salah from Kingston. There are established systems and processes and procedures, and those are the means by which such a change will happen. Thank you very much for your message. And Let's go to the text line. Well, that was the WhatsApp line. That was Power 106 WhatsApp. So let's go to Curtis. Curtis in Claremont St. Anne says, I would never want this asset in my house. I would rather have an empty house. I wonder, and then I'm not sure what Curtis is getting at here, but seeming to suggest that the caller must have been imbibing to say some of the things that he said. Well, how many times do we have to say it? People are entitled to their opinions. We try our best to manage the contributions, the input that we get from our listeners all over the world, not least of all right here in Jamaica. And as long as people are not being slandered and people are not using terms that are out of line with good taste and decency, we allow people to express themselves. Right. Well, thank you for your message. Nonetheless, Errol in Spanish Town says, Hi, Dervan. Ha ha. How ironic the United States is no paradigm of virtue when it comes to crime. How about us telling our people to be careful when visiting United States because you can be attacked by a white mob or a shooter who has gone berserk? Just look what a white mob did to their own capital, and right now they're currently trying to deny the right of black and colored people the right to vote. You tell me, is that a country to emulate? They should remove the mole from their eyes first before talking about our crime here. More in a moment.
Importers, provide proper invoices for customs when presenting goods for examination. This could prevent delays during clearance. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is 3:30.
It's probing.
There has not been a single year since 1974 where the poor has not been oppressed by the state. Precisely.
Spurring action to move Jamaica forward.
I know people are out there screaming, yes, but it's not just this government. I don't cheer. Fix it and stop spinning. Govern, man. Govern.
Featuring the bottom line with Ralston.
You chose these clips?
The best public affairs banter on
Some
Jamaican radio.
Part of the national campaign against inflation, we have to have a shake-up of the public sector boards leading to increased efficiency, cut the corruption and the mismanagement, and get the agencies to function in a more efficient manner.
It's Power Talk, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Identifying challenges and finding solutions in a globalized world. Dr. Herbert Gale on Mondays and Tuesdays. Simon Crosskill from Wednesday to Friday on Power 106 FM. Join us.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but okay. Thanks a lot for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. I'm Dervan Malcolm, and we're happy to have joining us at this time the Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Melody Ennis. Good afternoon to you. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, Sir Malcolm. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you so much for joining us on Both Sides of the Story this afternoon. And I'm happy to be doing this interview because I'd been wondering, people have been saying, well, let me put it another way. There's a sense that every sneeze, every cough, every sore throat, every little thing, it's COVID. And I'm saying, but what happened? weren't we sneezing before and coughing before and all the other things, especially at this time of the year, known as the flu season, etc. But everything now, people are quick to say it's COVID. So I'm wondering, Dr. Ennis, how have you and the team in the Ministry of Health and Wellness gone about just reminding people of some of the common symptoms and common cold and all the other things that were happening before COVID-19 that are still happening, but clearly we need to be able to distinguish between, and not all of us can do that, distinguish between a regular flu, a regular cold, and COVID, because uh, everything that happens to us these days, COVID gets the blame.
So both conditions, COVID-19 and influenza, are viruses that affect our respiratory tract. And the big difference is that they are caused by two different viruses. So the coronavirus is responsible, or SARS-CoV-2 is responsible for COVID-19, and the influenza viruses are responsible for influenza. However, they tend to have similar symptoms, not quite the same, but similar. So persons will experience a cough, they may experience a cold, nasal congestion, they may have a fever, joint and muscle ache. But of course, added to that, some persons may have loss of smell. The duration of the illness may be different. The time when symptoms develop may be different. So we look at all of those little differences now to differentiate between the COVID-19 infection and the influenza.
Mm-hmm.
But they are affecting the respiratory tract, and persons will have those general symptoms.
And there's a tendency for us to say, oh, well, it's the flu, it's just the flu. But surely, Dr. Ennis, the flu kills a lot of people every year, or people die from flu long before COVID-19.
Long before COVID-19, persons have been dying from the flu, especially persons with comorbid conditions or underlying illnesses, as well as the elderly and the very young. So the very young and the very old are disproportionately affected by the flu. Remember now that the complications can be as significant as death, but it can be pneumonia, persons can have sepsis, children can have diarrhea that is protracted and leads to dehydration. Persons who are asthmatic can have exacerbations of their asthmatic attacks. Persons with heart conditions can encounter worsening of that. And then you can have multi-system failure or multi-organ failure, affecting not only the respiratory tract now, but affecting our kidneys or our renal system. And then there is the business of inflammation. We have been speaking a lot about some things that happen with COVID, and we heard about myocarditis and encephalitis. And all of those things can also happen with the flu. Myocarditis, of course, is an inflammation of the muscle of the heart, encephalitis of the brain. You can get inflammation of the muscle as well. So all of those are complications of the flu that can lead to severe morbidity.
Oh, but how is it then, Dr. Ennis, that before COVID-19, when we were dealing with the common cold, or in particular, not the common cold, but when we're dealing with just flu, because it's flu season, why weren't we told then to wear masks and physical distance and wash and sanitize? Well, no.
No. We've always been washing.
True.
And we've been saying to cover your cough, cover your, remember, wash your hands, ensure that the high touch areas are cleaned regularly. So we've always been saying that the only difference with COVID, and that has to do with the transmissibility, is the wearing of masks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and you may have noticed that since we have been wearing masks, the amount of persons with flu is a little bit less.
Yeah.
We're noticing. So it really is the droplet infection that we're trying to prevent spread. So that helps. But the other measures of avoiding close contact, staying at home when you're sick, washing of the hands, or hand sanitizing applies to both.
How about the age? Does it? What's the what has the impact been like based on your experience, based on the history, in terms of the impact of the common flu on children versus adults versus seniors versus those with comorbidities?
So the impact is more severe in the very young and the very old. So persons over the age of 65 tend to not do so well, and that is compounded if they have any underlying conditions. If they're hypertensive, if they're diabetics, if they have asthma, sickle cell disease, heart condition, autoimmune diseases, any underlying condition puts them at greater risk of a poorer outcome if they have the influenza. And for children, it's also children with comorbidities. We do have children with comorbidities, and they too don't do so well when they contract influenza.
How can the average person confirm that, yes, I have the flu? By going to the doctor?
You go to the doctor. We can do confirmatory tests, and now we do a test of exclusion.
A test of, say that again?
We will do a test of exclusion now.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these symptoms, and what is common at this time would be COVID. So you would test for COVID, and if you have excluded COVID, then you can infer that these symptoms are due to the flu, but you would do a test of exclusion at this time.
And in terms of the symptoms, just for emphasis, because I think you alluded to them earlier on, but in terms of the symptoms that are, let's say, unique to the flu, what are those that we should pay attention to if we feel as if we're getting those symptoms or we're having those symptoms?
Well, I will tell you unique to COVID. So the loss of smell,
Mm-hmm.
the inability to taste. Now those symptoms are unique or more akin to persons having COVID than the flu. The cough and the fever is more marked in flu than in COVID. The difficulty breathing is more significant depending on the stage of the disease, and of course other underlying factors may be more pronounced in COVID, but it can happen in the flu as well.
All right. So one of the things we've heard over the years, well, I've never taken one of those, but that there are flu shots that you take at this time of year. Who determines who gets a flu shot?
So we go back to that question you asked.
Mm-hmm.
What is the impact in the various age ranges, the elderly, etc. So
Yes.
we look at persons who are most at risk, and the flu vaccine is offered to healthcare workers. It's offered to persons over the age of 60. It's offered to non-health frontline workers. It's offered to children with comorbidities. It's offered to pregnant women. So those are the persons in all 60 that we offer the vaccine to, and we encourage other members of the society to contact their private doctors to get the flu shot every year.
And what happens when vaccination for COVID against COVID-19 meets vaccination from the flu?
So we are offering at this time the influenza vaccine as well as the COVID vaccine, but we space them. So you are not to take the influenza vaccine or COVID vaccine within 14 days of each other. But once we have passed that 14-day mark, then you can get the vaccine.
So if I go and get, for argument's sake, I get my first shot, my first injection with a double dose vaccine. I get the first one. In order to get the second dose, I have to wait for.
So if you get your, so we're using Pfizer.
Right.
So if you take Pfizer on day one, your second dose of Pfizer will be due on day 21. Because it's 21 days apart.
Right.
So if you decide that 14 days after getting your first dose of Pfizer, on day 15, you are going to take the influenza vaccine, which you can, but then you won't be able to take your second dose of Pfizer on the 21st, because that would not be, you'd have to wait 14 days after the 15th to take the COVID-19 next dose.
Understood. What are your colleagues and members of the profession in the public health sector seeing with respect to the flu? I mean, what was last year like in general terms, and how is this year looking? Last year running into this year.
So last year, there was a slight decrease in the numbers of I don't have the exact figure, but I know that there was a decrease in the number of influenza cases. And we are hoping that if persons continue to practice the IPC measures.
I'm so sorry. Hold on, please, Dr. Ennis.
Sure.
We need to take a break.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:45. Let's Christmas together with One Spot Media as we take you home for the holidays. Enjoy a 30% discount on our 6-month subscription plan and receive a gift of Jamaica's most authentic television and radio channels. You heard correctly. Enjoy a 30% discount when you purchase a 6-month subscription plan from One Spot Media. And let's Christmas together no matter where you are. Simply log in to onespotmedia.com, select the 6-month subscription plan, and click subscribe. Offer ends January 14th, so don't hesitate. Subscribe now and let One Spot Media connect to you this Christmas.
14 minutes to 4 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Our guest is Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Melody Ennis. We've been talking about the flu, otherwise known as influenza, or influenza, otherwise known as the flu, and also to some extent COVID-19. But this is really about the flu, just to remind all of us that this is the flu season. I think you were sharing some information. You were talking about, you were going on to, you said IPC.
Okay, so you are asking about the trend that we're seeing.
Yes.
Over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And last year, there was a decrease in the number of influenza cases, and we believe that was because of the IPC, or infection prevention and control measures.
Got you.
That persons were adhering to for COVID. Because remember, we don't want droplets from one person to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So with wearing of the mask, with the hand wash, hand sanitizer, and physical distancing, then that allowed for a decrease in the spread not only of COVID, but certainly of influenza. And last year, we did not note any cases at all. We had zero coming out of the surveillance unit for influenza.
I'm sorry, I missed the part about coming out of the surveillance unit.
The number coming out of the surveillance unit is actually zero for 2020, and that's preliminary data, of course.
Zero?
Yes, and that's preliminary data.
Wow. So, and that's 2020, as you said. So it would take some time to get the stats on 2021 then?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, we do have to validate.
Understood. So now by virtue of the protocols now, the infection prevention and control mechanisms, it's a case of, pardon the expression, using one stone to kill two birds, meaning because we have to, the practice is to wear a mask, sanitize. Again, yes, this is something the Ministry of Health has always encouraged us to do, wash the hands, etc. The physical distancing. So if we do all of that, then we're taking care of both COVID, in a manner of speaking, and the flu.
We are. There are some other things that we have been speaking to before COVID. Avoid touching the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. You know.
Oh yes, I remember that jingle, touching your eyes and your nose, and yeah, I remember that. Yes. Yeah.
And we have also been saying that if you have any flu-like illness, you should stay at home. I know there are some of us who just need to go to work, but you need to stay at home because some of the offices do indeed have a central AC, and you are sneezing and coughing, and it can spread in such a way. So avoiding close contact, staying at home, covering the nose and the mouth, cleaning our hands, not touching our eyes or nose, and of course, other good health practices, eating a balanced meal, exercising, getting adequate rest, all of those things will help us to ward off these respiratory illnesses, and in particular, we're speaking now about influenza.
And how do I know that my common cold is indeed the common cold, as opposed to something else?
Severity is one of the factors. So with the common cold, it is not as severe, duration is shorter, and the complications are not as many.
I see. Now, you've told us that there is, in fact, a flu vaccine, and every year, normally, certain categories of people get that vaccine. But obviously, in a time of COVID-19, we have to pay attention to the period of time in between being vaccinated and taking the flu vaccine, being vaccinated against COVID-19 and then taking the flu vaccine. Are these vaccines administered? You did mention, your doctor, as you said, you can go to your doctor, but is it exclusively administered, the flu vaccine, administered by private doctors or in the general public health system? At this time of year, we can expect to go and the team is there ready to give us the flu vaccine.
At this time of year, in the public sector, the team is there ready and waiting to administer the influenza vaccine. Again, we really put emphasis on the groups I spoke about, the children with comorbid conditions or elderly, pregnant women or healthcare workers or non-health frontline workers, persons who are institutionalized. We tend, because of the contact that they have with each other and how things can spread in those institutions. So we offer those persons, they are priority for us because we know that the outcome can be poor.
So where does influenza come from, Dr. Ennis? I mean, I know we're living in an age where we're more and more questioning these things. And just as though we would ask about COVID-19 and the origin and so on and so forth. Uh,
So,
yes.
so it is a respiratory virus. So it is in the air, like all viruses. Once they get inside of us, they replicate.
But they decide that this is the time of year that they are going to come about and take set on us.
They decide that they flourish at this time of the year. They like the temperature.
Oh.
They know that at this time of the year, persons may be closer together. There are certain things that happen throughout the year. I mean, we don't. It's not so marked here because our weather is, pretty much stable. But in other countries, there are behavioral changes that occur closer together. The infection prevention and control measures may be broken down. But the bottom line is that once the flu virus begins to reproduce, it changes. And usually every year we get a different vaccine one target the virus that is circulating because of the variants that occur. That is a significant number, and the vaccine help to prevent against this serious variant.
Yes. And this thing we talk about with respect to COVID-19 being, some of us being asymptomatic, not showing any symptoms, but carrying the virus. That the same holds true for the flu?
I missed that. Could you please repeat?
Right. As just trying to understand, just as how for COVID-19 we identify some people as being asymptomatic. We have we're carriers of the virus, but we don't show it. There's no indication, no sign that we have it. Does that hold true for the flu as well?
It does, but it is not as marked as with COVID. So persons usually show some signs, even just a cough, a sniffle, some muscle ache, headache. It usually shows something of the flu, but it might not last for very long. So it may be 3 days, 5 days, as opposed to a protracted time period.
Yes. And just as we get ready to wrap, Dr. Ennis, in terms of, we have to ask you about COVID-19. I know we're here to talk about the flu, but just wanted to get a sense of what else. I mean, what else can we do at this stage? This thing seems to be this latest variant, Omicron, and I gather there are others waiting in the wings as well, if not already out there. Where does this leave us? They just getting used to, or just continuing the routine. That's all we have at this stage, and of course, getting vaccinated. Correct.
Getting vaccinated is at the top of the list.
Yes.
Because what is happening, we know that COVID can cause severe disease. It leads to hospitalization and death. And what the vaccines do is that they help to prevent the severity of the illness. So you may contract the disease, but you will not need to be hospitalized. You won't need to go on the ventilator, and you possibly won't die. And that is borne out in our statistics, not only here in Jamaica, but across the world. The vast majority of persons who are dying from COVID are unvaccinated. The vaccines remain safe. They remain effective at preventing severe disease, hospitalization, and death.
Yeah. And just to go back to the flu for a moment here as well, they for how much longer? It's now January. For how much longer will we have to contend with the flu, apart from contending with COVID-19, but with the flu? For how much longer from here on in?
The flu can hang around with us until about May.
What?
So we have a ways to go, and we usually administer the influenza vaccine between November and May every year in the country. And again, the categories I mentioned come into your public sector, any one of the health centers for your flu shot, and other persons are encouraged to go to their private doctors and get their flu shot.
And no parish is left out, right?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because every now and then you hear somebody say, well, I don't know, the nearest center to me is far, or I don't know where to go to get the vaccine. In this case, the flu vaccine.
No, it's not all of our health centers are fixed sites, and we all know them. And in any major towns, everybody that come out to town to shop, come out to take your kids to school now, like there is a health center close by. Please, if you are in these categories over 65, you are a non-health frontline worker, which includes, of course, our JDF or JCF or correctional services. All of those persons, please come out and take your flu shot.
And then again, Dr. Ennis, the children being out to school, and we know they touch the face, and we're hearing as well of other things out there. Was it foot and mouth?
Yes, there are so many things out there for us, and that is why all of the measures, including that the business of eating right, sleeping, exercising, and practicing. Remember, I'm not sure of your age, but I thought you were black with your grandmother. Remember when you came from school and you couldn't come into the house, you have to drop off your shoes,
yes,
your clothes,
yes.
you have to wash your hands because your street clothes can't come into the house.
True.
You're old then. No, but all of those things need to be reinforced with our children now. Yes. And we need to, of course, tell them, don't touch your eyes. Remember, we couldn't do those things. Don't touch your nose.
That's right. Hold on. Don't move, please, because there's something with the nose as well, I'm told. One moment. Dr. Melody Ennis is sharing a lot of life-saving and useful information with us on both sides of the story.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now 4 o'clock.
Yes, Dr. Ennis, we have a tendency, we don't like the discomfort we're feeling in the nostrils. And so we proceed to dig for gold.
I'm glad you said it about me. But these are the things back in the day that we were taught not to do.
Yes.
And if you do pick your nose, if you have to go and wash your hands immediately, you will get a slap to wash your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or your hands should have been clean before if you're going to touch the face anyway.
Absolutely. So all of those things we need to remind parents to instill in their children, because all of those will keep us safe.
Yes. And going forward then, I mean, what can we say? Yeah, well, I guess you pretty much answered the question, but I'm just feeling what everybody else is feeling. Lord, when is this thing going to go away? Why doesn't this thing just go away? And even in the midst of this thing called COVID-19, we have to deal with the regular flu and some, some of the other things that are out there. So what would be your word or words of encouragement or just general pointers outside of what you've shared already with our listeners right now, those who are suffering from COVID fatigue and blood, they can't take any more of this, and those who just rip off the mask and say, I can't bother, etc. What would you say to those of us who are frustrated and just have had enough of this thing called COVID-19 and still having to deal with the common flu, etc.?
We will overcome. We have the power.
Mm-hmm.
The power is in our hands at this point.
Yes.
We must maintain and continue to be disciplined. This is what is going to take us out of this and ease the frustration. We have to adhere to the IPC measures to a T, no slip up. It's not because of my friend, no slip up at all with those measures. And we need to get vaccinated. That is what is going to take us out of this hole and prevent us from going further in the abyss. We have the power, and we will, and we must surmount all the obstacles because we are winners.
Well said. And for those who'd like to just find information in relation to COVID-19, in relation to the flu, because it's really about the flu this afternoon, but we can't escape COVID-19. But for those who want to just be able, if they're not feeling so well, to maybe go online at a trusted site to just verify what is happening or not happening. What do you suggest?
The Ministry of Health website,
Mm-hmm.
Once you go on our website, you will see links that will tell you about the frequently asked questions for the flu, so a little bit about the flu vaccine. And of course, you can call your nearest health center, your nearest health department. Please, your private doctors can also advise you on the influenza, the symptoms of what you need to do, and of course, the influenza vaccine.
I have to tell you, I had a reason to call the Kingston St. Andrew Health Department. I was blown away at the level of efficiency. It was quite something, because I'd never had to do that before. But when I had to, I was impressed.
Wow, I started to get very tense when you said you called it. But I'm saying the sky of beautiful release.
Yes.
The system works.
Yes.
It's nice when we big up when it's really working. So congratulations, Casey.
Yes, we join you in congratulating them. So let's go to moh.gov.jm if for health matters, information, reminders, and there's just a whole lot of information on your website, quite frankly. Useful physical activity, web portal, mental health, what's this, Farm Watch, and that's farm with a PH because that's pharmaceutical related, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And vaccination resources, dengue facts. Dengue is still around, right? Well, this is it. You see, the thing is, when these other things are happening, like a COVID or we get into the flu season, we tend to forget about the others. But dengue is a clear and always a clear and present danger.
And we always remind persons you have to have that water standing still.
Yes.
So the flower pots, the saucers, anywhere that collects those the water,
Yes.
you need to not have it, clean the window sill, under the air conditioned unit, all of those pieces. So we just have to be vigilant.
Yes.
Because those little things are out there waiting to get us.
And the 888 One Love line is still up and running, right? Yes, wonderful. Dr. Ennis, we could talk to you forever because it's so you're so easy to talk to. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us and all the work that you and the team continue to do. We want to wish you and yours all the very best, and may you all continue to be safe, even as you do your best to keep us safe.
Thank you so very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Same here. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All the best. Dr. Melody Ennis is the Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and she's the lead when it comes to COVID-19 as well. She's the face and the voice of reason when it comes to COVID-19 in Jamaica. What do you think? If you have thoughts on these matters, feel free to message us or to call us. If you have other matters on your mind, we're open to hearing from you. The numbers to call, 876-922-4112, 876-922-4113, 876-922-4114, and 876-922-4115. The text line is the same as the WhatsApp number, 876-365-3346. 876-365-3346. Let's go to this message from Crocs in Black River. He says, greetings. Had our Prime Minister been around during the time of the great Merlin? Who was that? You have to help me there, Crocs. Who was Merlin? Merlin. Anyway, well, let's move on. But you say, had our Prime Minister been around during the time of the great Merlin, I have no doubt that he would have put the gentleman out of business because of his lack of ability to successfully compete. The shuffle was the most beautiful piece of sleight of hand that has ever been executed and could only have been achieved by a highly accomplished shuffler. Sarcasm becomes you, Crocs in Black River. We get in fact, the first time I heard, well, a lot of these expressions I learned from my mother. And that's one of them, shuffler. And well, yes, you're not saying anything wrong. He shuffled the cabinet. So that makes him a shuffler. Anyone who shuffles is a shuffler. So quite clever of you, Crocs in Black River. Thank you very much for your message. But so it is. It comes with the territory. Uneasy is the head that wears the crown, they say. So it is. You have to give and take. You take the good with the bad. You signed up for it, so it is. Trevor, and we ramp rough here in Jamaica, and we mark hard here in Jamaica. Trevor in New York says, Mr. Malcolm, with so many prime ministers, I beg your pardon, Mr. Malcolm, with so many ministers without portfolio in the prime minister's office, one gets the impression the PM had all these MPs that he was obliged to find high-level positions for. So he created all these positions in his office for them. This is one of the biggest cabinets I have seen in Jamaica. I hope some positive results are seen in 2022. And this Trevor is the same patriotic Jamaican in New York. Thank you very much for your message. Beresford says, Brother Dervan, Asians have always worn masks when they had influenza outbreaks. When we saw them on TV or meet them here in the West, some of us thought less of them. We were also cynical of Muslim women who covered the entirety of their faces. He who laughs last laughs best, says Beresford. Thank you very much, Beresford, for your message. Here is another. Dervan. Oh, this person has sent us a video which we haven't been able to preview, so we can't play that right now, but the person says, Dervan, that was Booker Prize winner in 2019, Bernardine Evaristo. Dervan, if we understood correctly, when you were talking to Dr. Melody Ennis, she stated that you could not get a flu vaccine simultaneously with your COVID second shot. We received our second Pfizer and our second Moderna shots the same day as we got our flu shots here in the US. Did you declare that you had taken those shots, that the second shot of Moderna? I don't know. It's one thing to declare it, to say, if you want to be clear that, hey, I got my I also got my, is it okay for me to take another? I don't know. That's something I would ask. I don't know. Unless the protocols along those lines are different in the United States of America versus here. Where are you? There's a 585 area code. Let's see where you are. Because you didn't say 585 area code. That looks like, oh, that's New York. All right. I'm accustomed to the 212, 347, and 516 numbers for New York. But apparently 585 is also an area code in New York. Yeah, well, we can't speak to those protocols in the US. But thank you for sharing. Give us some more information if you're able to. Let's go to the phone lines once again, 876-922-4112 to 5. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello? Are you there?
I am here. Nice one way.
Go ahead, please. All right, you sound as if you are in a place where you can't talk too loud, so you're whispering, or yeah, but it sounds it could be clearer. But go ahead. Let's see if we can bear it. It's a little muffled. Is it that the phone is too close to your mouth, or just getting a muffled sound?
Just checking on a personal matter.
Yes.
Advice on that matter. I'm trying to find out the customer, what's the word? Consumer Affairs.
Consumer Affairs Commission?
Yes.
What about them?
Could assist me with getting some information or some request from an insurance company that I'm involved with some and make a claim to, but I'm not getting any response from them.
All right, hold the line, please. One moment, please. How long is this break?
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:15.
Hello? Traveling from Limber's Road to CD Avenue, but I did it two already. I did it two again. 32 Limber's Road. Yes. 819-9761. Hold on a second. Hello? ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 4:17. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 4:17. 现在几点了？4点17分. 17 minutes past 4 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Have you had a checkup lately? If not, now's a good time. Let's not wait till we get sick to get a checkup. And have you done your homework yet? If not, now is a good time. Good afternoon to all the schoolers listening to us, all the students from the early childhood level to the secondary level. Trust you had a productive day of learning today. Hope you also managed to get in some physical activity, just as important as mental activity. As we always say, young people, socialization makes you educable. Education makes you trainable. Training makes you employable. And the right attitude makes you successful. Homework time, young people. Thanks for holding. Are you still there?
Yes, man, I'm good. Yeah.
Right. Well, we would recommend the Consumer Affairs Commission any day. They have an impressive track record of helping consumers and merchants and businesses to resolve in an amicable way disputes or other forms of indiscretion on the part of merchants and business people. Their record is, I think, close to more 95% or more in terms of. So that's what I would suggest, that you try them. Yeah. But that aside, though, there's also the Insurance Association of Jamaica, the IAJ, and there's a very affable gentleman by the name of Orville Johnson who would be happy to listen to you and see if there's anything that can be done from his office as the executive director of the Insurance Association of Jamaica. That's the association of all insurance companies in Jamaica.
I just Google him and it come up.
Well, there you go. So that's another option for you. In fact, I would go with that option first.
Okay. Thank you for that, Dervan.
You're welcome.
A couple of things on the shuffle.
Sure. Wasn't that a dance as well? I'm sure you were around at that time. Isn't that a dance? Wasn't there a dance called the shuffle?
No, I'm a little bit younger than that.
I'm sure I read that or heard that somewhere. Yes, the shuffle. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, I'm thinking, Dervan, that well, we know that it's the Prime Minister's
prerogative.
Prerogative.
Yes.
So that is one of the things that we have to live with, knowing that when we vote for a Prime Minister, that he has this, he can do this when he's right. But just looking at it, I'm thinking especially on the office, the ministry that Colonel Charles Jr. used to hold. I'm thinking that if he had just put that office, that ministry together just for probably some funding or what, I'm thinking I can't understand how you can just disband a ministry just like that.
You mean housing, urban renewal, and climate change?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my impression, and perhaps I should have read some more on that. My fault there, but my impression, based on there is some funding that is available. That would have been a possibility of funding available for climate change matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, funding was available.
So the stakeholders, Dervan, who would have been writing to that ministry and sending that ministry email and issues, where do they go?
Well, it has been subsumed in the where is it? Let me bring it up. It's under let's do this. Let's tell you where it is now. It is go down. Here we go. So that is now I had it. I was looking at it earlier on. Hold on. Here we go. Ministry of Economic Development and Job Creation, reincorporating the housing, urban renewal, environment, and climate change portfolio. So all of that is now under Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. In other words, reincorporated as opposed to being
Standalone.
yeah.
But when in the best of times, Dervan, these ministries standing alone were never able to produce the kind of results that we need as a country. So to be popping up so much things underneath economic growth and job creation, how do we see that?
Well, this is it now. Don Webby of Grace Kennedy likes to talk about what gets measured gets done, and it's about time that we put in place certain matrices to certain markers, certain systems, processes to be able to determine, apart from the obvious, whether the country is getting value for money coming out of a particular ministry, agency, department. I'm not sure the extent to which appraisals are done and with what level of consistency and to what end. But it's we some deliverables. Just as I was watching the ceremony, the swearings in this morning, or is it morning into afternoon? This morning, and I was listening to these newly installed ministers declaring or swearing, in terms of taking the oath of office and reading another bit of documentation, etc. And I'm thinking, just as how you have that document that says you will not divulge cabinet secret, not in the same words, but you get the picture, and so on and so forth, that you also get with your appointment and your documents of appointment, you get a list of items of things needing to be done. And this is where the permanent secretary would have in the archives or in his or her system all the projects that are going on, those that have been in the pipeline for a long time, those administrative decisions that need to be made, etc. And so you not only get your instruments of office, but you also get your, what do we call that now? Your duty roster or whatever it is. Your things to do, priorities. You get a list of priorities that this needs to be done within the next year, next 2 years, etc., etc. And then now, on the basis of the extent to which the minister, the policymaker, the chief policymaker is able to motivate, empower, and drive the ministries, departments, and agencies to achieving certain goals. The extent to which a minister is able to do that based on the matrices and the markers and the standards that are set will essentially determine what becomes of that individual, whether in terms of a promotion, a demotion, or a request for a resignation. But we have to be more clinical. It's too harem scarum right now. You know that you are the minister for so and so, and you may or may not pay attention to this or that, and things happen, and the Auditor General does her work, and they go into Parliament, the committees of Parliament, and they curse each other, and they try to embarrass whoever, and then nothing comes out of it, and then it's business as usual, and the cycle continues. No, we can't continue like this. We need to be clear what the expectations are, what the standards are, and insist that people comply. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dervan, because
Up with the volume again, please. Sorry.
I'm glad you bring that one up because I'm thinking that when the time come around for us to vote, that is one of the things that I'm gonna be marking the Prime Minister hard on. He told us that he'll be giving the ministers job descriptions and we're not seeing it coming forward.
Well, I thank you for reminding me of the term that was used. I was trying to remember that as well while I was talking a while ago. Yeah, to make the point that he did indicate that they would be given job descriptions. Yes, you are correct.
I will be marking him on that. Before we of that new ministry that they are disbanded. I don't know if this is your
Well, technically speaking, they'll tell you it's not been, while it's no longer a standalone ministry, it still has the attention of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
what I want you to do, Dervan, I don't know if probably do and I one of them will take the time. To talk to one of those environmentalist advocates and to hear what they have to say on the matter. Because they would be more integrally involved and understand what is at play.
Yeah, this is where now the environmental lobby groups come in, because they are now going to, because of that vested interest, they're going to hold the feet of the decision makers to the fire.
Right. I will talk about the training this morning.
Yes.
I was listening when Mr. Green was doing his own.
Yes.
My wife was listening, and when he talks, I find myself saying, this time.
Oh, I saw what you mean. Yes, because he did take the oath before, didn't he? Yeah, and it's serious, and people have to understand taking the oath of office is a serious business. It's not a play thing. So when you take that vow, you're the song says, I vow to thee, my country. When you take that vow, you are expected to fulfill your obligations. Yeah.
So, for this evening, Dervan.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for the call.
Thank you for the advice for
Happy to oblige.
give me the name again.
The Insurance Association of Jamaica.
Yes, thank you.
IAJ. All right, take care. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story. More after the break.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:30.
Consumer Talks, educating and empowering consumers towards a more vigilant and confident consumer-friendly Jamaica. Join us every second and last Tuesday of each month at 9:35 on Real Business. Listen and learn about your rights and responsibilities. Learn how the CAC works to empower consumers in Jamaica. Consumer Talks, brought to you by the Consumer Affairs Commission. Protecting your rights, securing our future.
¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5:29. ¿Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 5:29. 现在地点了5:29分. 29 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Do you know where your children are? Are they where they're supposed to be? Doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's a good time to check up on the children. A good time for us to continue with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story, here on Power 106 FM. Good afternoon to Tiny Beckles. Miss Tiny, I got your message the other day, just didn't get around to responding in kind. Sorry about that. Miss Tiny, good afternoon to you. And thank you for your message. She says, good afternoon, Dervan and listeners. Happy New Year to everyone. Please stay safe. Many happy returns. And you do likewise, Miss Tiny. Angela Forrest says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan. How are you doing today? I'm fine, thanks, Angela Forrest. How are you? Velta Wilson in St. Thomas says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. Better late than never. Hope all is well with all listeners. Jones Dolores says, good day, Dervan and friends. Happy Tuesday to you all. Watching from Sacramento, and that's in California. Sacramento, California. Welcome, Jones Dolores. Let's hop across to YouTube and see what's popping. Jamaican View says, good afternoon at Dervan, Power 106 staffers and both sides of the story. Fans from a very cold Philadelphia, where it's currently 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Ouch. Never mind Jamaican View. We hope we've been transmitting some of the warmth of Jamaica to you and yours in Philadelphia. And Jamaican View says, I'm encouraging the both sides of the story fans to like the YouTube channel. I notice you currently have 901 subscribers, 99 more needed for the vital 1,000 mark, says, of course, this is the same Robert C. Gray of St. Catherine High School, Past Students Association in Philadelphia. He says the cabinet is indeed a whatnot, LOL. There are so many members in the office of the Prime Minister. I, however, do understand the political play in doing this. Well, that's the thing. The politics is the vehicle. Politics is the vehicle that is used to get to state office. Politics. So that when you get to state office or public office, you have to, yes, you have been called, you have been chosen to serve the people of Jamaica, essentially. You've been called to serve the people of Jamaica. But because of the inextricable link between the vehicle that gets you into office and the office, in making certain decisions, you have to take into account the political underbelly of the system. So you still have to be as careful as ever with some of the people who fall within your remit of management. In the case of a cabinet, for example, you have to be mindful of certain things. For people who are not going to be running in the next election, you have to let them down easy instead of chucking them out or chucking people in to take up certain positions. It's really management. That's what it is. And that's the basis on which political parties compete. They say, we are the better managers. We manage the economy better. We can manage safety and national security and safety better. So it's a competition of management. And that's what it boils down to. The extent to which an elected government effectively manages the affairs of the country. That's really what it is about. It's about management. And Peter Drucker told us a long time ago, management guru Peter Drucker, those who seek to lead but fail to manage will become either irrelevant or dangerous, not only to their organization, but to society. So it's really about management. That's what it boils down to, the extent to which an elected government is able to effectively manage the affairs of state. That's what it all boils down to. Management. And so management skills are key, and not just the bookwork, so to speak, but one has to learn things like emotional intelligence. It's a subject we've discussed before on this program. Mindfulness is another element. That three-letter word, EGO, ego, which is at the heart of everything, ego. Man's biggest problem is a three-letter word, EGO, ego. And that has implications for everyone and everything. Not least of all, management, managing the affairs of state. That is not picnic-sinting. Serious business. Serious business. Thank you for your messages, Jamaican View, otherwise known as Robert C. Gray. Don't worry about it. Your schoolmate is not going to take you on about taking on about your comments. Thank you very much for your message. Dr. Renee Zazu Williamson is making one of his now frequent calls to us. Let's hear what he has to say. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Yes, sir.
I'm having a little delay in the broadcast, so thank you for giving me a few minutes.
Well, it's the nature of the broadcast, because we have to ensure, in case you say anything that is out of line, we're able to push that button.
Got it. Listen, the interesting thing is I do want to still touch on the thing that you have been speaking about in your monologue as I've been listening. And because it is important for us to try to change the game a little bit. In other words, if we continue to do things the way we've always done them, and we expect a different result, we are not very smart people. I'm not going to use the word that is often used.
And just stick a pin. I don't want to throw you off. Just stick a pin right there. Remember what you're going to say. But when you mention changing the game, I'm remembering a quotation from by Barack Obama. I think it goes something along the lines: if you want to win the game, you have to play the game. When you win the game, change the game, or something like that. In other words, you have to get in. You have to get involved. If you feel strongly about certain things, you have to get involved. And when you do win, whether election or the game or whatever, you are in a position now to change the game. That's the powerful position some people end up in when they win. You now have the capacity to change the game. So I'm just supporting the point you're making. Sorry.
I recall something of that sort by the former President Obama, when he was giving some, the media rounds of his last book. There's young people, don't stand in the sidelines and expect things are going to change. Or Gandhi says it's in a different way. He says you are the change that you've been waiting for. You're the ones that you've been waiting for. Be the change you want to see. Something to that effect.
And Barack Obama also used that quotation. Sorry, go ahead.
But in my statement, there are really three things. The first thing is stating what I was starting to say.
Yes.
In that we need to have more management type leaders in positions of government leadership in terms of these cabinet positions. So, for example, and I'm going to applaud the government here, when they appointed Dr. Nigel Clark as the Minister of Finance, it is perhaps one of the smartest moves that Mr. Holness has ever done in his political career. Because
and that still, I'm sorry to cut you again, and that still doesn't please everybody, because there are some people who argue that it's just too much bookwork, accounting, as opposed to being more creative and innovative in stimulating the economy, etc. So I guess you can't please everybody.
And to be fair, that's not the Minister of Finance's role. So that would be something for the Economic Growth Council or those folks in the Office of the Prime Minister that are charged with that. But in terms of what his role is as a Minister of Finance, balancing the book, balancing the budget, having us move towards our growth targets, monetary policy and those kind of things. Dr. Clark is perhaps the perfect individual. The man is a Rhodes Scholar. He studied actuarial science when he was at Oxford. Many years ago, I was at Cambridge when he was at Oxford. And he did his PhD in actuarial science. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He was at Goldman Sachs. So he's well prepared in the many choices he's made and career positions that he's had since that time with Muscles Group and other things. That makes him the ideal person in terms of the government of Jamaica to be the Minister of Finance. I don't see that in the other ministries, right? In fact, as I think of Dr. Chang and his performance...
Sorry, talk about Dr. Chang and his performance after the break, please. We need to take a break. 1 moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:45.
Jesus, Jesus, oh Jesus, oh how I love to call your name.
Tune in to Power 106 FM for the longest running religious calling program on Jamaican radio, The Prayer Line. Join Pastor Errol Hay and his team as they offer spiritual guidance and intercession grounded in biblical doctrine. Hear powerful testimonies from Jamaica and around the world. The Prayer Line, a source of support and inspiration in these trying times. That's The Prayer Line on Power 106 FM, Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Join us.
You shall live, declare the words of the Lord. Amen. You shall be a living testimony here on the Lord's side.
¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5 menos 14. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 5 heures moins 14. 现在地点了5点14分. 14 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Good afternoon to all working Jamaicans tuned into both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. It's a good time for us to ask ourselves, how productive have we been today? How productive have we been today? Thanks for holding, Dr. Williamson. You are going on to talk about Dr. Chung.
For giving me a few more minutes on the other side of the break. But I do want to wrap up on the question of leadership and having people in the right roles for the right positions. The image you made, which I was hearing about setting deliverables for these ministers, is also an important thing, because I don't believe you necessarily have to be a finance person to be the Minister of Finance. However, I would love to be able to set some deliverables for you for that ministry, whatever one you're in charge of. So, for example, Mr. Floyd Green is now back in the government. What do you call that? Cabinet. After a little tap on the wrist, but he was actually doing a great job, as far as I could tell, as Minister of Agriculture.
Well, he's now the face and voice of the NIDS, the National Identification System. That's going to be what he'll be concentrating on, according to the Prime Minister.
Yeah. Why? It's a system which there's some challenges, needs further discussion. But the point is, you can see there are people for whom performance is possible, even though they don't have the expertise in a given field. So that's the nature of politics, of representation of politics in the parliamentary space, in that you're going to choose people who are elected, so you have to choose from those that are available to you. The other point I would love to make is succession planning, because I don't necessarily see an obvious successor to Prime Minister Holmes. Now, Prime Minister Holmes is a young man, relatively, so he could probably have another 2 or 3 terms for what I know. But it'll be in many great companies in the world, particularly Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, there's always an identifiable successor. And it always gives the CEO a little bit of a fire under his belly, a little bit, to make sure that he's also performing. I thought Prime Minister Holness had one of the best opportunities in the history of Jamaica, except maybe the 84 election that was uncontested.
83.
To really set a standard for our country. 83. Okay, 83. And it is that he had such a large parliamentary majority that he could have really been the transformative leader that Jamaica is really looking for at this time. But he has not delivered on that promise. It's a little bit like Obama in 2008. We had so much hope for him to be a transformative leader. But instead he went to the politics of the usual. Now, to be fair to him, he had a lot of obstacles because those Republicans are not laying.
Well, I was about to say, is it the individual? The individual must take responsibility without a doubt, but such is the nature of the beast, isn't it? There are certain things, it's almost as if you are already, in some instances, you're set up to fail based on some of the encumbrances.
Exactly. So in the United States system, that is true. In the United States system, that is true. But in the Jamaican parliamentary democracy, where the winner takes all, Prime Minister Owens had the more, I think, in other words, he could get rid of all the corrupt politicians that people have in their mind and highlight them and put them in all different things where they want to see. And there would be very little resistance for that. So, anyway, he has not, turned out to be that way. We hope that this new set of slate of cabinet ministers are going to perform better. But I think you're right in terms of setting deliverables, timelines, budgets, what are the metrics in which we're going to assess their performance. And you can fire everybody up to the Prime Minister, right? He can fire anybody he wants anytime. Yeah. I think he should take that political capital and use it very well. But I want to say one more thing before I go, because I know that's the main topic, but there's something that came up to my radar this day, and it concerns you a little bit, and it concerns me a little bit, but it's indicative of the state of our country, the malaise within our country. I saw the Lord of Steve Wright, who's a colleague, a friend, I would say he was a friend, post something on his social media about the Calabar Hall of Fame or Wall of Fame. Maybe it's a museum or some sort. Among the great graduates or alumni of Calabar High School, they had Dr. Henry Loper, one of the greatest scientists in the history, pioneer in guinea weed and marijuana research. They had Prime Minister E.J. Patterson. Among those that were featured on this Wall of Fame, Hall of Fame, whatever it's called, Mr. Adija. And And with all due respect, as your graduate, Mr. Malcolm, I do not believe Mr. DJ Palmer, a convicted murderer, should be among those that you should champion as graduates of your college.
I agree. I agree. That has always been my position, except that you can't erase a fact. I think the problem you're having, and I find it problematic too, is holding up this individual as in the company of distinguished past students. In fact, my picture is not too far.
What it represents as in the mind of these young people, Mr.
Yes.
Malcolm, Dervan. You're seeing a Wall of Fame, Hall of Fame museum.
I'm with you.
With Henry Lowe, Dr. Henry Lowe, P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister for 3 terms in Jamaica, or 2 terms, I forget which one was, and a DJ Palmer, convicted murderer. Now, he has great lyrics, by the way, and he's very popular and all of these things.
Well, I don't know about great lyrics, but they...
I'm not a nerd I am doctor, but I listen to reggae music. I'm a fan of the genre, dancehall as well.
Yeah, it's the
young men should be.
No, but I agree that I've always been uncomfortable with that juxtaposition, and we cannot erase the fact that he attended Calabar High School. That's just a fact of life. But the treatment now, how do you treat that? That is where the rubber hits the road, because you want to be careful that you are not, I mean, there are so many people fall from grace for whatever reason, and it happens for centuries, and they all would have made one contribution or another. How we treat in a situation as you mentioned in the museum,
young impressionable minds. You know, when I went I went to Kingston College, one of the greatest high schools in the history of the world.
Never heard of it.
And it was formed some 1925 by the but having gone to Kingston College,
yes.
One thing I can tell you is that, well, it is my hope. Let me not say I would any definitiveness, because some idiots from KC might.
All right, careful now. We don't want to go styling people like that. No.
No, it is my hope that those that have matriculated at Kingston College, even if they've graduated and have gone on to lead lives of disrepute, are not held in high esteem, so that our young people that come in the next generation, in the preceding generations, are going to think I should aspire to be like, I don't know, I can't think of a Kingston College person, but I'm sure there are people, because we take young men from all walks of life, and most particularly the school was designed for young men like me, who come out of the ghettos, out of Trenchtown, Jamaica. So we have.
Or let's wrap it, because we're almost out of time. But just to say, as I said, I've always been. Yes, as I've said, I've always been uncomfortable with the elevation of such an individual in a museum setting, for obvious reasons. But you can't change the fact. It is a fact. The records are there that he attended Calabar High School. Now, how you treat that in a museum situation is a different thing, where you are elevating you're putting this image beside all the others, including mine, because mine is there as well. My image is there as well, and it's not too far from his image. And yeah.
Well, listen, I want to see Dervan, Malcolm, Dr. Jermaine McCall,
but
Dr. Henry.
Yeah, but we're out of time. We have to go. But thank you very much for your contribution.
Blessings.
All the best.
See you.
Good. Can we thank you once again for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story, for today, Tuesday, the 11th of January, 2022, the moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. All things being well, both sides of the story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 5. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm, reminding all of us that every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. Take care.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
5 o'clock.
News, comprehensive, powerful, and credible. Power 106 FM now.